Welcome to Influence to Death, your guide for navigating the wild world of wellness influencing.
What kind of tea do you like, Amanda?
I like many kinds of tea. I believe that where there is tea, there is hope. But this morning I'm having yerba mate, which my mom says tastes like fish, but I think tastes like greenness. Yerba mate dusted with green tea matcha with lavender flowers, soy milk, and whey protein.
Do you put any honey in there? Or does the whey have a sweetener?
The whey has a little bit of like monk and stevia.
You know what that just made me think of? There's this like skit I just came across of this duo that pretends to be a Brooklyn coffee shop, like hipster coffee shop, and people come in and they're like,
No, I know what you're talking about.
"What options do you have?" And they're super rude. They're like, "What are your milk options?" And they're like, "We have sea bass milk, buffalo milk, macadamia milk." You know, it's like
Eel milk. I totally know what you're talking about. It's like a man and a woman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she is like the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. And that's, yeah, like in Williamsburg or something.
I just got found out. But I will say, at least I'm not a jerk when I go to the coffee shop. I'm like, whatever you have, honey, it'll be just fine.
Oh, I'm a total asshole when I go to I'm not an asshole, but I am a picky shit. But I say, like, I'm sorry, I'm a picky shit. I'll tip you really well. There's actually a coffee shop here that they have, it's Piper's, is in Paducah. They use non-homogenized milk. They have, like crunchy milk, and they make a killer green tea latte. But I usually just make it at home. Like I normally will drink matcha with soy milk. We get that Westlife soy milk by if they sold it in 5-gallon buckets, I would probably buy one. And then I can go through honey. I sweeten it with honey, but I go through gallons of honey a year. It's probably the carbohydrate I eat the most of.
Okay, so if you're at a coffee shop and you're like the picky person, I'm just curious, what does that look like?
Well, usually I'll just get like tea, just plain like water and a tea bag.
Okay.
But I'll I can't drink coffee. Coffee totally wrecks me. Like I love coffee, but so there's this is Influence to Death. By the way, we just hit record because this episode is about kind of like what happens in the background, just some studies that we've been reading or things we've been seeing that we want to discuss. But Amanda started to talk about her tea and we were like, we're just going to hit record. So today's a little more informal. We're all here and we are a podcast. So that's what you're listening to. What was I saying? The last time I had coffee, there's this wonderful coffee company, Purity Coffee, and we mentor them through this organization that I work with, like their business. And they have this great instant branch called Sacred Cups. It's wonderful. Like I looked into it. Amazingly sourced, super ethical. It's delicious. And so I had an appointment with the woman who owns it. And I was like, I should just try some of her coffee. It's been years since I had coffee. And I swear to God, I could have snorted an 8-ball of Coke and been less wound up than I was.
Wild.
It was wild. I was like, I actually have to just like take some deep breaths before I even turn Zoom on. It was just one little thing of instant coffee.
Yeah, I wonder what that is.
Detoxification pathways, like somehow you're not like.
But you can drink a significant amount of caffeine.
Just not coffee. It's not coffee. Like I can drink green. I mean, I definitely have something, Hannah, to your point. And my dad, like our side of the family, my paternal side, I think it's been years since I looked at my genetics. I think we are comped where we can't break down catecholamines very well.
Okay.
And we get wound up easily and can't settle down. So it was like a joke in my family when I was a kid because I had that and IBS, but nobody knew about IBS in the 80s. And so they would be like, oh, when she gets nervous, she farts and will shit her pants. Because I was so anxious. I always had anxiety. I remember watching movies as a kid and being so anxious and I couldn't name it. And then, I would just fart and fart and fart. And
I mean, that must be a direct connection, though, that the catecholamines would build up in the enteric nervous system itself.
Dude, I finally kind of figured it out and tried to put the pieces together. But anyway, I'm drinking matcha.
Well, Hannah, we have to know. Are you drinking anything this morning?
I'm drinking coffee. This is my second cup. I can drink quite a lot of caffeine, even like before sleeping. It doesn't like affect me. I don't know why. I didn't start drinking coffee until I was probably like 24. I didn't like the taste of it. I would drink tea before that. And then
It's
when I was,
because you're God's favorite, Hannah. That's why it doesn't affect you.
Chosen one.
what does that mean? Can I
It
get
just
that on
means
a shirt?
you're so lucky. I am jealous.
I don't
I
know.
know. I think I'm just gonna start wearing like coffee, like essential oil or something because with you, I can drink a gallon of like yerba mate or green tea and extract and be fine, and I'll drink one
Yeah.
cup of coffee and be like, "Ugh, I
It
feel
does
weird."
have a different like feeling that other caffeine doesn't have, but for me that only happens if it's extra strong or if it's black and it's like I almost feel like it for me it's like the taste, the bitterness. It's kind of like taking a shot of like some kind of like bitter alcohol, bitter like it's just like a ooh, that's like really the flavor.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like the maybe it's the acidity, I don't know what it is. It's different than like other, other caffeinated drinks.
Yeah,
But
it's
I think also I don't know relative like some people drink a lot of coffee. And I was reading, I can't remember where it was about like the average amount of cups of coffee and then like health outcomes or something. And like some people drink like 5 or more, 5 to like 10 cups a day.
Mhm.
I don't know if I hit that. Maybe I can't actually handle coffee and I just like only drink a couple cups. And so I think like
Dude, I'm gonna tell you the last like coffee run I was on, at the end of it, I had to get an echocardiogram. So you can handle it a little bit. I was on a run and my heart skipped so hard. I was like, today's the day, I guess.
well, I'm allergic to weeds. That's my
Oh
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
That's when I have
Andrew
to
is
go to the
yeah.
hospital.
Whoa, you're like really allergic. Like
To
Yeah, it
marijuana.
must be
yeah, to
something. It's
marijuana.
not CBD. It's something else, like some kind of psychoactive compound in like THC. But I don't know what it is, and you just don't know. And like I found this out at a younger age. But I have like a seizure, like
Oh,
and like
Wow.
blackout. Like my heart starts going like extremely.
okay, now can you eat hemp?
Yes,
Okay, interesting. Because
yeah, I
Andrew
can,
is
like actually allergic to it. Like
big fan of all things. What is the family name like sativa? I know that's a strain, but he loves that family of plants, but
mhm.
he can't eat hemp either. Like he's sensitive
You
to the
get like a
whole
rash.
he gets extreme nausea and actually syncope, like he'll pass out.
Yeah, that's how. Yeah, I pass out too. Yeah.
God, so wild. Okay, and here's something that I
Oh.
think is interesting because are you celiac, Amanda Jones?
No, my husband is.
Okay, but
Wow.
you're sensitive, like you're because you have Hashis.
I have Hashis, and I definitely I just kind of eliminated it based on like a statistical
Yeah.
analysis of how can I try to help slow down the disease progression that's happening in my thyroid, and that seemed worthwhile. And then now that I eliminated it, when I reintroduce it, it's clearly like, oh yeah, that's not good for me.
I just wanted to like point out. So I've never had gotten the extreme system to get diagnosed with celiac, but have all of the genetic markers, the symptoms. Hannah, you are also celiac, right?
Well, in the same boat as you were, I never was diagnosed, but I had all the symptoms, and then I stopped eating it a really long time ago. But I have the gene, one of the genes for it, and it runs in my family.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm pointing this out. That sun is just obliterating you. Are you okay? I was like, it's about to come in and rob you.
Vampires in Twilight for a second. I was like,
I just saw you get like more and more shriveled up. Coffee is often discussed as a cross-reactive food for people who are sensitive, like reactive to gluten. And we all react differently. I'm just pointing that out because I think it's a learning moment. People will often be like, oh, if you are sensitive to gluten or reactive to gluten, you should avoid coffee if they've had any exposure to the Cyrex education,
right.
Cyrex labs,
All
or
the
also
cross-reactive foods.
what's the supplement company that was really associated with them? Apex Energetics. But it's individual. It's
Mhm.
totally individual.
Like I
Anyway.
can eat oats. You can't eat
Oh
oats.
God, oats are worse for me. I could eat wheat easier than
Yeah.
oats.
That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all
Totally.
blew my mind on the whole allergic reaction to marijuana and what that would look like. Like, it's not typical anaphylactic. It sounds really
No.
different, like more autonomic, because I feel like I'm going to die if I eat or smoke marijuana. It's just a hellish experience for me.
Mhm.
I get profound existential anxiety, first of
Yeah,
all.
Yeah.
And
that's why
so,
it's because you're existential.
but I feel like it feels almost like my nervous system turns to metal or something, and I get pain throughout my muscles and my spine. I feel like I can't breathe right, and then I start to feel like I'm going to pass out and die.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
I
like,
don't
maybe there's
feel that way,
something
but
weird. Maybe
yeah.
there's something about that. I don't know.
I mean,
My
it's a
heart
powerful
rhythm.
plant,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, Amanda, we're both extremely existential. Like, think about death a lot, ponder our existence, wonder why we're here, whatever. So, if I'm really heady, like if I'm in an anxious period and I smoke herb, I feel like I've made deals with God. Like, if I eat this whole loaf of bread and say a rosary, would you please let me survive this experience? But then if I'm not anxious, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I understand why people call the cops when they get, like, if they eat herb
Yeah.
and they have these like psychedelic, because herb can be really psychedelic when you eat it. But then if I'm not anxious, I can smoke a J and sit outside and stare at the sky and be like, I know exactly why we're here.
Oh my gosh. Can I tell you guys a quick story about that?
Yeah.
So I think this is fine to say live to lots of people. So when I lived in Portland, Oregon a long time ago, and I had met my husband before we got married and we were dating, he was staying with me. And this is actually the last time that I consumed anything like that because it was such a bad reaction. And it was baked into brownies.
Classic.
And, that actually was worse, I think, because of the wheat. So I broke out in hives everywhere combined with the blackout and stuff.
Honey.
But so once that was realized, we were like, I'm not going to eat any more of those. So there was this whole pan, and I lived in a house with 7 other people, like this big old house. And we just we forgot about them and left them on the counter and put foil over them. And they had been cut out. We just didn't think about it because it was a really stressful, we were like, do you go to the ER? What should we do?
Mm-hmm.
And so in the morning I woke up and I went downstairs, and one of my roommates, who was a super straight, laced girl who was in nursing school, she had told me she was getting ready for her final nursing exam.
Oh
I
my
think you know where this
God.
is going. She's standing there in the kitchen and she turns around. It's early in the morning. She looks at me and she's not there.
Blitz.
And she goes, I was just looking at the clouds. Wow. And I was like, she was like, and it's my birthday and someone made brownies for me.
My God.
Whole body just sunk, and I was like, did you eat those? And she was like, yeah, but now I just can't stop looking at the clouds. I have to go to school.
That's what herb's good for.
Girl, you gotta call your professor. You can't go to school. I felt so bad.
What happened? Did she get a retake?
Laid on the couch all day. She talked to her professor. I think she told her professor she was sick, got a rain check or whatever. And we went out and got her food and brought it back to her and just let her. She had never imbibed ever.
Wow.
In her life. She was probably 25,
Wow.
26 years old. I just it was funny, but also I felt bad. But I think she was okay.
Yeah.
I think she was having a good time.
Yeah. Oh, I've talked to God in please save me. And I've also talked to God thank you so much for this amazing existence, both on weed.
I actually think some of my accidental weed overdoses are what triggered some of my early existential anxiety, because one time I was kind of on the recipient side of it. I was unaware that I was consuming extremely high doses of but I was into nutrition, had gone to visit a friend in Portland.
God, you guys, Portland.
It was late at night. We were making this late night soup because I had just gotten in, and he yelled at the stairs, do you want pot butter in it? And I heard, do you want me to put butter in it? And I was like, oh, lay the butter on me,
It's black butter. The weed's been sitting in it for so long.
I was like, I basically live off of butter. Just, hook me up.
Dude, that is Weston A. Price gone wrong.
I didn't know it. And it was potent. These people were connoisseurs. And I hallucinated and left my body. He laid there and slept all night while I turned into a grasshopper and jumped between different stellar bodies in the universe and on these little golden threads. I finally
actually that sounds really profound. I'm I've read about that in Ospinski's books before.
What was really profound was trying to come back into reality and reassemble my identity, where I was I know that I'm on planet Earth. And then it was zoom in. Okay, I'm on this continent. Now I'm on this. I'm I live here in this state. And I remember having this experience of being there are so many components to my identity construct.
Yeah.
I have brown hair. I have curly hair. I have a brother. His name is Aaron. You know, I had to like reassemble this whole identity as Amanda, the human on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was outrageous that I would
It
ever
is.
be
It is
able to like
outrageous.
get that many identifiers together and then like get inside of it again and animate it to where it was like, yes, I care deeply about all these facts of my life because I'm like I'm attached to like to reattach to that identity just seemed like it was absolutely preposterous. And I remember laying there just being like, man, all these people are gonna like wake up and see me and think that I'm still me. And I'm not sure how we're going to interact because like I'm not me anymore. I'm an intergalactic grasshopper.
That's
It's so
definitely, like,
awesome
a
because you
psychedelic
have this
experience.
green shirt on right now. It really brings the grasshopper part. Like, dude, I think people have trouble, you know, when they get really high like that, when they can't reassemble and then
Reintegrate.
they freak out and you have to, you know, bring them home from the festival and watch them for a couple months.
But it really does, that disintegration of the ego identity, I guess, is what so many philosophers talk about, like that being a goal of a psychedelic experience in some ways. But I think when you're going into it having no idea what that is and how that might be a good thing, it's very different experience.
Yeah.
Whoa. Oh my gosh. Okay. Should we talk about like, Hannah, you have that, is it free birth? Is that?
Yeah, that's sorry. Something stuck in my throat. That was my topic idea for a future episode. I've actually been thinking about it for a while, and then this whole like expose came out on the Free Birth Society. The article I was reading was published by The Guardian.
Would you talk about the society a little bit? Because I don't know. I've
I
seen
don't know a lot about it either, but I
Okay.
know the one that that they were investigating is based in North Carolina, which is very close to both of us. Two women that run it. I don't know anything about them except it sounds they've generated, I think the article said, about $13 million since 2018. So they funnel people with stuff. They sell free birthing, like guides. They do 2 different certification courses, which cost thousands and thousands of dollars. And basically the concept is, I mean, it's called free birth is an interesting term because what I know is just like a natural or home birth.
I'm looking them up on Instagram while you're talking so we can.
So yeah, I wanted to talk about their social media presence since I'm not on Instagram right now. Yep.
Yeah. Free birth. There's 133,000 followers and they're following 0 people, which is always a fun
That's interesting.
split to see in panels.
Home births and natural births still including caregiving, like caregiving, like midwifery.
But they are against anyone being with you. The Guardian expose was really, I mean, they only fit into their word count on these certain examples of women and their really horrible experience, which is like, you know, I don't want to, you know, the word, I guess the word would be trigger, but it is involved like child death. So it's really just wild. What's wild to me is to peek at their Instagram comments after all of this has come to light and just see people continue to defend their actions, even though the Guardian piece, they actually did investigate. They got like message records, cell phone records, you know, of women that they were coaching through very traumatic birth experiences that had very, you know, fatal outcomes, encouraging them not to go to the hospital, encouraging them not that it would be fine. And then once they did decide, some of them, once they did decide to seek medical intervention, because it was very obvious it was needed, kind of coaching them on like how to talk to the medical staff so to not like involve the Free Birth Society with it.
To lie,
and you know, and then denying that to reporters, but yet there's all of the records of it. So it's sounds very intentionally manipulative and insidious to me based on just reading that article. But the reason I got interested in it, I think last year, wanting to talk about like home birthing and like the crunchy, you know, natural birth, like kind of like influencing, was because of my birth experience. And it was really intense. Not what I anticipated would happen, but it was traumatic, and it would have been really bad if I didn't have medical care, you know? So just thinking about it from the mindset of like the influencing space, where I think, Amanda, you mentioned this, maybe in the urine episode, which I love so much, but you were talking about how like at some point it's like beyond the actual original influencer and it's their followers become the influencers and it becomes much more aggressive and hive mindset than like it was originally. When you get these people who are, if you even ask a question or bring up anything to contradict or just explore further whatever their like dogma is, you are just immediately attacked. And that's happened. We've talked about that in previous episodes, like how that will happen in different communities. And so I kind of saw that a little bit in the free birth on their Instagram of people, it's just, I don't know, interesting topic to me because birth there's so many like, same with vaccines, there's so many like strong and passionate viewpoints on all sides. And like, I want to be respectful of like all of them, but then sometimes I'm like, that's just dumb. Like you guys are dumb. And that's dangerous. And like,
I do know that feeling.
well, it's just kind of like, why do you
What
want to do it?
what I've seen too, like having, had birth, I don't know what a year, given birth 20 months ago now. Like I feel like I had a pretty fresh tour through the world of like online mothering spaces and communities, and also feeling the influence of my own peer group around like what are your birth plans. I had this sense of like, well, knowing that being a first time mother at 41, that I was going to be at higher risk, that I wouldn't even be accepted into most birthing centers. Like it was basically kind of stay at home out in the country and go for it or go to the hospital. And because there wasn't all these like nice birthing centers where like you're too old, you're too high risk, you can't.
Wow,
we don't
I didn't
accept.
realize that.
A lot of them are that way.
Interesting.
All of them in my area. But so I basically didn't have to even, that wasn't even a decision because I went into severe preeclampsia before going into labor. So I was in the hospital and they saved my life 100%. But I remember feeling the shame around not being like, oh yeah, we're going to go totally at home, all natural. It was like, there was a big ego, or there was a big identity thing of like, do I belong? Because here's the piece of the free birth is like, its doctrine is all about empowerment and faith and, not living in this fear-based space and connecting with, these deeper currents and forces. So all of that is like really high-minded. And if you're not, there's this basic kind of maybe unspoken assumption that if you're not free birthing, you are on this lower frequency of buying into the fear and that you're creating your own negative outcome through your own fear, which is total gaslighting.
It's all your fault. Like you could have prevented
if
that's
only
some
you weren't
cult
thinking,
shit is what that is.
It is.
It's also like you can't feel empowered or free or, all of these high-minded in a hospital. It's just not accessible there somehow. It's like there's like an invisible wall.
It was my experience in the hospital. Granted, I know this is not everyone's experiences and it can be really, really traumatic and terrible care. But my experience was kind of like the food pyramid where everybody has these assumptions that are like, oh, the food pyramid, blah, blah, blah. And we haven't used it since like 2010, right? Or 5.
A really long time.
And like my plate is super
amazing,
super reasonable and great. Yeah. But we still have this idea of like that it's just kind of cool and unusual. And the same thing was my experience with the hospital. I don't know how yours was, Hannah, where it was like, the providers were reasonable. They're working within a limited system. It's kind of like that difference between public health and personal health shows up, but they weren't there to corrupt my birthing experience. They were there to just like get it done and get me and my baby out healthy and let us go start our lives. And that was the other piece to me. It was like, I think going through a super traumatic birth where I almost died helped me to just kind of be like, I'm fine with whatever. Like, I'm not attached to some story about the birth I was supposed to have. I'm just getting on with it because what I and doing the best we can to recover. What I realize now as a young parent is that birth, that matters, right? But it's just like this tiny piece of the bigger thing, which is you're starting a family, you're bringing a human
Yeah.
into the world. Like that's the thing that's going to be completely transformative. And I think it's just like there's so much, I don't know, for me, it was more empowering to just kind of be like, the birth was the birth. It really was out of my control. And what feels empowering is to move along with our lives
And you're alive, honey.
and be alive.
Look, I'm glad you're alive for your partner and your baby. Good for them. But the
They helped.
non-altruistic side of me is like, if something had happened to you, I would be completely distraught. Like, I am glad you are alive on this planet for me.
Too. No.
I mean, it's such a crazy thing to think about. It's like we used to joke in Hawaii that the final detox, because everybody was so obsessed with detox, the final detox is you just die. So if you want to have the final detox, don't go to the hospital when you have your crazy reaction to whatever food or enema concoction or supplement regimen or whatever. It's like, it feels like a very similar thing. It's like living is better.
Yeah.
Also, I'm looking at this article. These women they were doulas. They weren't midwives.
Right.
And they call them ex-doulas turned social media influencers. I trained to be a doula. Did you all know that? I came home from California the first year that I was out there working, and they offered doula classes in Chicago. And so I would drive up there and take those classes. And I remember finally I was like, I'm just not that into kids. Like, if I got through or something, like, I'm not going to have a kid. This is not the right space for me. But it is a training, and it's a really
important role. But that's your role. You have to stay.
You're not the midwife. You're not the doctor. You're support for that woman and her family and the bridge between the medical team and them. And you do what you also are like a conduit. It's not you. It's you. This is interesting. You do what she wants. And it sounds like with this, they're kind of saying, this is what we think you should do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is this linked to like the trad wife movement and this? I mean, it kind of just feels like a whole thing of like pushing women back into the dark ages and telling us it's what we really want and will be good for us.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's another topic we really wanted to do, which maybe we will in the future.
Yeah.
Which now we were talking about it before it kind of blew up and people started making fun of it and like really digging into it and like investigating it.
Yeah.
But I wonder, I don't know. I just don't really understand what the motivation, like for those women, like, are they just unhinged? Like, are they just mentally unwell? And so can you even rationalize it? Like, what would your motivation be to have that influence over all those women and essentially control their birth experience because you've more or less kind of brainwashed them into believing that this is necessary? Like, why do you want to do that?
Maybe they had some, I mean, I feel like fortunate that my hospital experience was really good, but I'm sure that there are plenty of really, I know that there are really traumatic where people's rights and dignity are, get violated in the hospital setting, and maybe there's some trauma there. I don't know. But there's also millions of dollars, right?
Yeah. There's a podcast associated with it, it looks like.
Yeah.
And then there's also just that, what is I don't know if it's like a logical fallacy, but like once you get further down the path, I don't know if it's
it is a fallacy. Like, you can't go back once you're certain ways down the road.
Yeah, well, you would be especially if you're in something that has led to real harms, to come to even just to be honest with yourself about that versus the public to come out and say like, you know what, I may have been wrong about this. Maybe there's a more balanced approach, and let me just like disassemble my multi-million-dollar business.
Right.
And because I think over time, I even felt this early on as an instructor online, where if you step out into the online space and say, I have ideas, or I'm going to teach something, I have information, then you are going to be on some level constantly having that information and your perspectives critiqued or questioned. And so if you're not willing to be in that constant place of like, okay, it's really easy to start hardening around that and start building a defensive mindset, because that's just what our human egos do, I think, naturally, versus being in that constant exercise of like, it's okay for me to be wrong in public. I can own that and update my ideas, but not everybody is, I think, set up or in a position or able or what to do that. And so they just get hardened and they're just like,
Yeah.
I feel like people should have to take a test. Something. It's why I have so much respect for Sarah Ballantine. And when we
That's what I
had
was
her
thinking of. She's
on
the
the
one
podcast,
yeah,
huge influencer who actually made that fit and was honest and truthful and just, like, owned it.
hmm
mhm.
Being like, "I was wrong. I
Whatever you
agreed with all of you
think
and I was wrong." Yeah.
about what she's saying, I mean, it like exploded because she was like, hey, I was wrong about seed oils. And then this whole, people shit on her for that. And I'm sure it cost her a lot of money.
Mhm.
Dude,
yeah.
she
And there's
did.
this idea now that we shouldn't be wrong, or like that. I feel like that's such an interesting conversation that's
Mhm.
happening right now in the science communication space of like, whoa, how do we look back at the COVID era and realize how harmful it was to speak with as much certainty as maybe it happened? Or
Mm-hmm.
Or even
Yeah.
more that, like, what happens when the public at large doesn't understand that science is a process rather
Right.
than, like, a verdict, and that being wrong is inherent in, like, the null hypothesis. Like,
Mhm.
scientists start out with the assumption that they're wrong, and so it's a lot easier if you're scientifically literate or have been in the science community to have that sense of, actually, there's a lot of humility here, and we're constantly expect the information to change. That's just like part and parcel, versus like, you told us it was this way and then it changed, which means now that you were deceiving us or misleading us or
Right.
somehow,
And now we can't trust you. You're just trying to trick us.
which
Which
that
is,
makes it so hard for these people to pivot.
Yeah. But I mean, I just took this course on systems thinking in public
oh,
health, and they
cool.
touched on that, which I thought was really interesting, is like how, like, you have this really important information that you need to make a policy about or change, and potentially it could be, life-saving. How do you convince the public to listen to you? Because, like, the power is in the people, like the bottom down approach where you're working with civic leaders, you're working with the public, you're putting information through the media to try to make people understand that this is an important initiative and we have to do this. And part of it is like presenting it in a way, almost like marketing, presenting it in a way where people will receive it. Because
Yeah.
Mhm.
if you come in with like a bunch of numbers or stats or a study, the bulk of people are just going to be like, what? Like, why do I care? You have
Mm-hmm.
to
Mhm.
relay the information in a way that is important to them and they value. And they're like, oh, I get that. That is important to me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
maybe this one thing I don't care about, but this outcome I do care about. I mean, you see
Mm-hmm.
that all the time in the way that also, health marketing works, where you're talking about their pain point
Yeah.
instead of like process. It's like, if you're not science literate, and that's nobody's fault, because it's the way our society is set up fault. Like, we're
Yeah, we're also
failing people on education, but like,
mhm.
it's just, if you don't have that, then
Yeah.
you're not going to get it. And that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is my understanding from reading rationalist writers, trying to understand fallacy, like, first principles thinking is that people respond to emotion.
Mhm.
So it's why I own a marketing agency. I actually don't care about marketing. It's a meta reason for owning that agency, because what I do care about is people getting solutions and not being in the situations. I think probably all three of us have been in situations in conventional and integrative medicine where we're like, there's pros and cons. We've seen harm in both. And
Mhm.
there's like an umbrella way of looking at that where it's like, wait a second, there's solutions that people need from both of these worlds. And if we get stuck, we're not going to find those solutions.
Mm.
And then knowing, Hannah, exactly like what you're saying, the best marketer wins. I mean, look, I look through this lens all the time now. When I look at Donald Trump, I'm like, he is a genius marketer. This is my personal belief. He has a persona that he's putting on that his followers respond to. But you get little glimpses of like, that's not actually the man.
Mhm.
I think he's smart. He gets it. He knows what his followers are going to respond to. So it's like, okay, you like apply that to any area. And it's like, well, if we can make accurate information, the most accurate that we have access to right now, really like a motive for people, like make it like emotionally important, then they're going to accept it. And if
Mhm.
not, they're not. It's like why Paul Saladino can be shirtless in a produce section and be like, kale is going to kill you, or why like certain influencers have like, they always have their blue light blocking glasses. It's like, there's like signals and emotions that change people's minds. And I don't think it happens from facts.
Yeah.
It's not how we work.
You made a really good point in the pee drinking episode where like you were talking about that influencer aesthetic of I haven't seen these guys, but I can visualize it based on how you describe them. This kind of like maybe a little older, like 50, but like ripped, like gray hairs.
Ripped.
And he's like,
Very chest, rubbing his urine on his like super
he just drink
tan.
this like fresh pee or whatever. But if it was like this gross guy with like urine dribbles all over his mouth and he was like, this is the stuff. Like, nobody would, it would be disgusting, right?
Yeah.
So it's totally what their whole aesthetic, their marketing, they're selling it.
By the pool.
So Amanda, I'm going to segue a little bit based on what you said about COVID, because I just happened to be mindlessly scrolling, as you do, on Instagram the other day, and I'm not familiar with Dr. Kara Fitzgerald's work, hardly at all. Are you all familiar with her work?
Yeah.
She's a big podcaster, right? That's like kind of supposedly in the evidence-based kind of clinician focused.
She's published a couple papers on reducing DNA aging with dietary and lifestyle strategies.
Right.
That's when I started becoming interested in her. She also had a CNS after I graduated from UWS, when I was still planning to do my CNS internship. I think she had an internship and I was looking into it. But what you found, Victoria, is really cool, I think.
Yeah. Okay. And just for people to know, so we all three went through the same coaching nutrition program and graduate school. And then when you graduate with a certain level of nutrition education, you can go through, it's the American Nutrition Association, right? That you go through this like extremely rigorous set of, like a bullet list of, you have to do all like hours mentorship to become a certified nutrition specialist. And then you take an exam, right? So that's what you're talking about. And so a lot of people will offer like those mentorship programs and you pay them to help you, to be your mentor. So yeah, so I happen to just be scrolling. I didn't follow her. I'm trying to see. I didn't even follow her after this, but I probably will. She posted the study update post, and a lot of people are doing this now. Like Hannah and I do this for some of the people that we do marketing for, where it's like, here's new research in the field that they're focused on, and it performs really well. Actually, it's a good way to market yourself by explaining the up and coming research to your followers. So this one was on a paper. I have the paper pulled up, and here, let me say the name of the paper first. So it was published in the journal Nature in October 2025. So very, very recent paper. It's called SARS-CoV-2 mRNA Vaccines Sensitize Tumors to Immune Checkpoint Blockade. There are 60 plus authors on the paper. Tons of people participated in this research. But I didn't know that paper existed. I stopped following the COVID research probably like at the end of 2021 because I was like, I'm going to have a psychotic break. Like I'm going to have a mental breakdown. Actually, another woman we went to grad school with, Aparna, and I were like, we would like really go through the research literature to try and understand what was happening. And then I think she is more mentally stable than I am, but I was like, I can't keep doing this. And we were living in the middle of Boston. And to your point, Amanda, it was like a lot with COVID. So Kara posted this, and the post is mRNA vaccines, and that's bolded, may boost cancer immunotherapy response, 2 times higher 3-year survival with mRNA vaccines plus immunotherapy. And then she gives some points from MD Anderson where they started to see this pattern. She gives the DOI, the identifier. What does DOI stand for?
I don't know, actually.
I'm wondering if it's like database index something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm just going to Google it real quick. Digital object identifier. So research studies have this DOI number attached to them, and you can search for them based on that DOI. And then she gives a screenshot of the primary figure in the paper, which also I just want to speak to this. When you're reading a research paper, all the words are important. I mean, it's a paper, but if you want like the most accurate take, the fastest, you look at the graphs, you look at the figures. That's actually where you see the juice. And a lot of times, a lot of times. It happens, and I'm surprised actually by how often it happens, that the words in the research paper, particularly in the abstract, so like kind of the synopsis, the conclusion that comes at the beginning, is a little different than what's reported in the figures. So she provided a screenshot of the figures. I actually read the paper last night, and it's over my head. Like, it took me a long time, and I could feel like I would need to read this 2 or 3 times, like sitting at my computer, not on my phone, look up some of these words, understand the context. I have zero experience with cancer research. I'm not an oncology nutritionist. I've never gone deep into that. I have mentors, thankfully, that have, and I really trust their takes, but it's not my wheelhouse. The reason, though, that I wanted to bring this up is because I like stumbled across this post, and then I happened to look at the comment section. So she's functional. She's an integrative in the integrative space. And you all, these comments are, some of them are unhinged.
Like, people are pissed that she's saying the vaccine for Pfizer vaccine could have benefits, or what?
Yeah, it's not just Pfizer, it's any mRNA vaccine. So I think Pfizer, and there's another, Moderna maybe also was mRNA. Somebody wrote in, I mean, a lot of the comments were really nasty, but one was like, I would respect you more if you were a stripper. It's like one I came across.
Wild.
Yeah, I mean, really, really crazy. To me, in my opinion, crazy. Anyway, so I commented like, hey, people were like, what's the full link? But in the meantime, it's not often that journals, especially Nature's an enormous journal, will provide the full text of a study that you have to like go dig or
to get a hold of it. Yeah.
So the full study is available I like posted the link and was like, you can just go read it. So you could even copy and paste it into ChatGPT or your favorite AI and get a synopsis. But yeah, people are like, I can't believe you're on board with pumping people full of foreign DNA. You're a functional medicine doctor. And after years of crimes against humanity, you have no idea the poison of mRNA. Wow. People say, now let's talk about turbo cancer as a result of the vaccine. So she 2 days ago posted in the comments her intention in sharing the post. People can go and find her and read this. And even in her comments, she said, to be clear, I still believe some vaccines should be avoided in certain individuals. And it's like, yeah, well, no shit. I mean, not that I'm like getting onto her for saying that, but like, I can't believe her audience doesn't see that. Anyway, to me, it was just such an example of like, God, this one comment, you're in functional medicine and recommending the COVID shot. Yeah, that is
a lot of functional medicine practitioners recommended it.
It's a whole conversation around the response, but the word is functional. Like, can we just like, it means it works. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm not a vaccinologist. I'm not an immunologist. I didn't research this. I know there are problems also with the COVID vaccine. Like, there are studies published on like, yeah, there are risks, absolutely associated risks. But if you have a type of cancer and you're on an immunotherapy and they're seeing this pattern, it's just, maybe it's a solution. Like, shouldn't we talk about that?
Right. We have to talk about it. That's what, I don't even know how to really put this into like the right words, but that's something that I see that happens so often. I mean, is you just get shut down immediately. It's like, we're not even going to explore this or be open-minded. It's just immediate no. Like, and it really makes me think of like the Dunning-Kruger effect that comes up all the time on our episodes. And it's sad because you're not growing or evolving or increasing your knowledge base with that mentality. Like, it's just,
and
like
if you have influence over people as a clinician, I mean, I'm thinking like a lot of these people that follow her, like based on the comments, they're like coaches, you know, they're talking to their families at the very least. It's like, to have zero space to bring that in. It's like, well, the people that then you're working with are affected by that. I guess I always come back to that, where I'm like, there should be some kind of test or something before you are able to influence the opinions and the decisions of people. If you do it you get to do yourself whatever. Be as precious, however you want to run your life, that's on you. But when you start to talk to other people about whatever, mammograms, vaccines, even colonoscopies, all these different things. It's like, those are people's lives.
Mhm.
Are you sure?
Right.
Anyway, I knew that there's, bias, but when I read those comments, I was like, whew. And I would actually love to talk to somebody who does have the chops to go through that paper with me or with
Dr.
us.
Zwicky. I wonder if she would
Yeah, we could ask
come
her.
back. That was a great episode, and I expected it to have more engagement, and I wonder if that was another contentious thing where people didn't wanna hear it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cancer is so one of those things too where you can really spot the kind of conspiratorial mindset, but also the volume of commentary that comes without much education on it. Like,
Mhm.
there's not a whole lot of people providing. I follow a group called Evidence-Based Vaccines, and it's really interesting 'cause it's very like pro-vax, but the admins are like, we're not fighting with our opinions here. Like, this is
Mhm.
evidence-based form, meaning like if you want to counter somebody, bring the receipts. Like, we are having evidence-based
Evidence.
conversations. And it's really interesting to see that. It's a completely different, social media landscape in those environments where that's the playing rules that you don't. It's kind of like in
Mhm.
grad school, being in the forums and having to be, you can't just like show up and say some stuff.
This
You
happened to
have
my
to
sister.
and
It's
be
Yeah,
like,
like,
it's like,
can you provide
"Citations
some
today."
citations? Yeah, of
yeah.
like what even you're talking about. And the thing with cancer too, just being like how much it gets treated as this monolith, and rather than
Mhm.
like there are many different types of cancers that are
Right.
receptive to different types of, environmental exposures and interact with the immune system in different ways. And we just tend to have these conversations where it's all just cancer.
Yeah, like
Mhm.
in this study, it was non-small cell lung carcinoma, I believe, and metastasized melanoma. So even in that one study, that like is the one that Dr. Fitzgerald posted, it wasn't just like cancer. It was like
Right.
there were very specific cancers that they were talking about with
And
a
that's why
certain
sorry.
therapy they had gotten. They had gotten a certain conventional treatment through MD Anderson. So it was like a very specific case. Go
And
ahead,
that
Hannah,
we've
sorry.
talked about this before is I think there's a misunderstanding about health sciences, and you see it in influencer personalities where they're like this all-knowing persona and they have like the protocol and answer for all these things, but in reality the way it's supposed to work is people are experts who are very specifically focused on a certain type of cancer or a
Mhm.
certain, body system or organ or cell or dietary macronutrient or whatever. And like they are highly specialized on that and
Mhm.
an expert. Not saying you
Mhm.
can't have that like wide scope, that general knowledge, you can, but sometimes when it comes down to it, you have to look to these people who have spent like decades studying and keeping up to date and following everything because really like we can't know all of that.
You can't, yeah.
And you can be a brilliant mind, intelligent, wonderful, practitioner. You shouldn't be expected to have all that knowledge. That's just like not
Mhm.
realistic. And saying that
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
do is completely disingenuous and you're lying to everybody, including yourself. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
there may be an outlier group of people who have that amazing capacity, you
Like
know.
Sarah Russell is kind of one, like she has a photographic memory. It's one
Yeah.
of the reasons I love talking to her and having her on. And she also has that paired with extreme critical, like she's humble and has a great critical thinking brain.
Mhm.
But she can be like, oh yeah, that was in, she can remember like page
Page
numbers.
numbers.
It's like wild, So yeah, I think there's like really specific cases where people have that ability. But yeah, Hannah, we talked about that with the parasite episode where we like reached out to
Graham Rook.
okay Graham Rick, yeah, and he was like, I've been out of it for like 2 years or something. Like I'm not up to date, and I was like, I'm quitting this entire field. I'm gonna go back to permaculture where I belong, outside digging ditches, and
And I mean,
leave you all
can
to
you
be the
imagine,
adults.
like, how do people like Kara, who are willing to kind of put themselves in the line of fire, hold up to that? I mean,
Oh gosh, yeah.
and this is so political too, which I think health is political because it
Totally,
is policy
Mhm.
based, but
yeah.
that's not the kind of political I'm talking about. I'm talking
Yeah.
about like political as in, affiliated with different teams. And
Mhm.
that's, a big part of what's like governing these opinions and conversations now is like kind of what side people think you're on. But I was listening to a podcast from this medical physician who moved from the US to practice in Canada. And this was, I think, like right in the middle of the pandemic. And he talks about how he is now having like droves and droves and droves of licensed healthcare practitioners reaching out and asking him, how did you do it? Because they're basically like the attitude towards healthcare providers in the US right now is so profoundly hostile that,
Oh, wow.
healthcare providers are like wanting to leave to,
Mm.
well, I think it all has a lot to do with what's going on at the CDC and HHS, where
Yeah.
Mhm.
they are not feeling protected. And there's this, there's an additional layer of like adding this conspiratorial mindset
Yeah.
towards healthcare providers. This guy was talking about how like if you go back and study history where you're in kind of authoritarian, now I'm getting political, but where you're in like authoritarian takeovers, they
people
go
go
over
after.
media, they go after legislators, and they go after scientists,
Doctors,
especially
yeah,
health
yeah.
scientists. And yeah, it's just sad to think that there's that much vitriol towards people who have indeed dedicated their lives to trying to figure out how to reduce human suffering.
Yeah.
I mean, it just, especially somebody like Kara Fitzgerald, she's no Bill Gates. There's not like,
Bill Gates isn't even Bill Gates the way
Bill
that people
Gates
talk
isn't
about
even,
Bill
right.
Gates.
But at least what I mean is like,
You
all
know,
the fodder is not there. Like she's just a
Right.
woman who has been trying to guide clinicians in best evidence-based practices online for a
Yeah.
while. And yet she could be targeted like that is just, it's scary.
target.
Mhm.
This is the thing though. I have to play devil's advocate a little bit because I think like right now we see an extreme version of authoritarianism. Like we're seeing the fingers more and more and more.
Mhm.
And like hearing, like right now, kind of what's happening is that the CDC website is saying like there is a causal link between autism and vaccines, right?
Or it
So
can't
like
be ruled out. Isn't that what they were saying?
maybe that is the specific way they're saying it. Look, I'm just going to say it. Something, in my opinion, went on for years that I saw in my tiny little practice where these parents would come in and they had no business coming to see me, but I'm the only one that would listen to them because they were like, look, my kid was fine. They got the shot. Now they're not. What the hell? So if you don't have the ability to like parse out, like there's triggers versus cause, there's different genetic profiles, then you do start to think vaccines cause autism. Right? It's like before I like had that, I had to study that and still am studying that ability to like pick apart the specifics because it's not the way that my mind naturally works. Like I'm very tribal naturally. We've talked about this in the podcast. Like Hannah is a much better, like kind of like skeptical, critical thinker than I am just naturally. So to see that come up, it's like, okay, yes. And, the administration that was in control before was saying like, and you hear it on, I listen to NPR most of the time, our affiliate here. I love them and support them and donate. And, it's like big supporter, but like they're saying like there's no science to show that. So part of me is like, but wait a second, you have like this army of moms and families that are like, well, then what the hell happened to my kid? And nobody is giving me answers. Like when I look at it, I'm like, everybody is fucked up. Like nobody would budge. And so now, because like the people that were in power before wouldn't budge, the people that are in power now are like, we're bringing it. And it's like the solution, in my opinion, is like, how about everybody just take a beat and we actually have a conversation about what might really be going on. It's not that there's no link and it's not that it's the link. It's like there's something happening. And I think tons of clinicians can like see that evidence. It's like there's something there.
Yeah, there's so many layers to parse there. Like, are we talking about link? Are we talking about causation? Are we talking about a actual causal driver? Are we talking about a primary causal driver or like secondary, tertiary? There's just like so much more nuance to be had.
And people really need to, I think we have to have those conversations, but like to our point that we've kind of, talked about during this. First of all, let me say this episode to me is like the ultimate. I love this. I think this is the best episode we've had so far. Hopefully listeners feel that way too. But what keeps coming up, is like, there's like, we want these black and white. Here's how it is. But your body doesn't work like that. Health conversations should not go that way. And this is like, to me, one of the most tragic examples of this is that you have all of these people that probably have experienced something. And then the politics and the scientists are like, well, there's no link. Or they're like,
Right.
we can't rule out a link. And it's like anybody who wants to just like pick a side needs to take a step back and let like people who want to have these subtle conversations take over so that we can figure out, this is the end point. We can actually figure out what's going on, because you picking a side is not helping anybody. Well, it's helping your pocketbook. That is what picking a side helps. Or it makes you feel good that you're on the red team, or you're on the blue team, or you're on the side of science, or you're on the side of the people. And it's like, no, 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 no. We have to have subtlety with this. It's very complicated. So I think it is horrible that people would turn on healthcare providers. It's horrible.
Yeah.
That should never happen. And I'm like, God, I wish that like the topic could be talked about in a way that wasn't pointing fingers. I think about that meme where like Spider-Man is pointing, it's like 3 Spider-Mans and they're all pointing at each other. It's like, nobody gets helped like that.
By the way, the banner on the CDC website is different than it was before. I don't know if it's being updated, but I know when I looked at it last week, there was actually a banner on the top, right? Am I wrong? Am I remembering?
I think maybe when the government shutdown was happening, they were like, those dirty Democrats won't let your government reopen.
Oh, yeah, there was that. That was something. But then there was one about autism and vaccines that was like right on the top of the page. And now even when you go to the vaccine homepage, it's not there. So
yeah, this reminds me of one time I was sitting on the porch with a friend that we used to joke. He's like the epitome of strongly held opinions, or strong opinions loosely held, like where he'll just like state these radical opinions and then kind of be like, oh yeah, well, that was, just as like a conversationalist, I guess. But anyway, he was like, I really respect the people that drive up to abortion clinics and like gun people down. He was like, I know. I was like, what? He was like, because just think about this. If you in your heart of hearts believed that embryos and fetuses were full on like humans that deserved the same rights as everybody else, and like you really view them in that way, then, like it's incredibly like brave and valiant to go up and be like, these people are slaughtering all these babies. I've got to do something, like no matter what it is. So I'm not promoting that, but I thought it was a really interesting thought experiment of like the guys that went to the CDC and put 500 bullets in the side of the building, a few months back. They really believe in their heart of hearts that the CDC is running a campaign to off,
the populace.
And so if you really believe that, then it gives you a little grain of sympathy with these people that are like committing these seemingly neurotic attacks, right?
Yeah.
And I think that it just comes back to the information landscape and how do people get radicalized into such strong beliefs
that's the thing. Like religion does that for people, and to me, what is a very calculated political movements do that to people. It is another example of influence to death. We're in our little world, but that absolutely happens with religion and politics. It's just not my field. So I'm not having a podcast about that. But I mean, that's the problem with the political landscape right now. I think that it is not communicated super well, but my husband and I talk about this all the time. It's like directly, maybe you could kind of be like, okay, maybe this doesn't look great, but the indirect effect of people feeling like they have permission to act a certain way, to think a certain way, it taps in to what I believe is fueling it, our like evolutionary drive to be tribal, to like react, to have these strong opinions without like the subtle information backing it. And then people get radicalized. That's the problem. Ideally, we would have somebody in charge of religion, politics, health, everything that's like, hey, we're gonna have like public forums. I've never even thought through what would it look like. Maybe I should and like to start to help create this.
You've got the model, yeah.
Well, I mean, part of this is the podcast, right? Is like to have some way of publicly speaking of like, like, we have to sit down and like discuss this and come and like go through the complexity that is whatever topic it is, politics, health, religion, da, da, da. It's like, but that is not what like drives people, especially in a way that is radical. Humans, again, to go back to, we are extremely driven by emotion, and it is hard to separate. But again, personally, and you get to believe whatever you think. If you have influence over people, I guess even if you're a parent, right, this comes up. I can't even imagine, but I'm careful even when I talk to my husband about certain things, because I'm like, I don't want to like drive you in a direction that might not just be right. It's like when you're influencing people, that subtlety has to be there.
Yeah. Well said, Victoria.
Oh, I get so wound up about it.
So here's the point. Okay, so I found the page on CDC, autism and vaccines. Key points. The claim vaccines do not cause autism is not an evidence-based claim because studies have not ruled out the possibility that infant vaccines cause autism. Studies supporting a link have been ignored by public health authorities. Second bullet. That's kind of a wild one to me.
Yeah.
HHS has launched a comprehensive assessment of the causes of autism, including investigations on plausible biological mechanisms and potential causal links.
So I feel like it was different before.
May
I
have
wish
been,
I
and
screenshotted it.
I also think it may totally have been different before. Hannah, I feel like I see we access .gov a lot to read research studies. I've seen the copy change on the websites, and I also think like we haven't even talked about the role of the media, which we don't even have time. I'm like, I have to pee. I don't have time to.
Yeah, I have like 1 minute, I think.
Oh, and thanks. Okay. Yeah. I mean, okay. And this is what I'm going to propose. We should just get together and do this once a week. Like discuss
Maybe
these
people
topics.
will like it. Maybe not. We'll see.
Let us know.
Yeah, we didn't even get into AI and my crazy wormhole around that.
Yeah, you have it's really cool ideas. And Amanda, to your point, I get the Medscape newsletters. Do you all get those?
Not anymore. I used to.
They're my favorite. So, they'll send, they see me opening the newsletters, but there was a newsletter that they sent out that I just saved. The topic is my diabetes coach is AI. Does it work? It's happening. So we should come back and talk about that.
Yeah.
And y'all are welcome to continue the conversation. I just have to hop off. I don't know if it'll mess up if I
I need to go too. We're flying to Philly later today. So appreciate you ladies.
All right. Bye, you guys. Have a good day.